Peace and love, family. Welcome again to U.S. Political Prisoners and You, brought to you by the powerful station at Black Power Media on Facebook and on YouTube. If you have not subscribed to Black Power Media, please do so. We have to promote our platform, a platform that gives us the opportunity to speak about our issues from our perspective, our narrative. With that being said, thank you for tuning in. Please subscribe and share this content so we can have more viewers and then we can continue to broaden the conversation around political prisoners, captured freedom fighters. So this past weekend, we had Black Veg Fest, and Black Veg Fest is conducted annually by the good people of Liberation Farms and their affiliates. It's always amazing to see how people come out and talk about what's going on, focus on our diet. And this is Black August, right? And that was the same day as Mutulu Shakur's birthday. We salute our beloved comrade, now ancestor, who taught us about sacrifice, commitment, and that undying love. Mutulu was in enough number of organizations. He went all out for his people, and we have to recognize that, and we have to respect that, and we have to do it in our conversations, in our engagement with one another. And that was the beauty of Black Veg Fest. It allowed us to talk about our political prisoners. It allowed us to reflect on what Black August is. It allowed us to reflect on how we need each other, right? We live in an interdependent world, and there are people who are going through things differently. Their approach to it is differently. Their understanding of it is differently. But when you have these opportunities come together as a community, you start to understand that you're not alone. You start to understand that your ideas exist because of your relationship to your oppression. How are you dealing with? What are you understanding? What's your level of political education? How are you making this assessment? And who are you around to sharpen your understanding, right? Because I know from experience, there are fellowship moments that you have with certain people that can't take your conversation to another level as it relates to what you're actually going to do. Some conversations just remain on the level of complaining, right? Where you got other conversations lead to actions, lead to exchanging resources and making a decision about what you're going to do at what particular time behind what particular idea. And that's what I get a lot out of movements at Black Veg Fest. It allows me to talk to people that I see in those circles of consciousness, of cultural consciousness, of community consciousness, of political consciousness, who are exchanging ideas. We exchange information, whether it's verbally or it's in the form of an upcoming event, right? I know the brothers from Uhuru, they gave me their publication, and I'm always appreciative of what they're doing. I made sure I made that donation. And even though I'm going through some financial challenges, yet and still, I still had what I had to spare to make sure that I made some level of contribution to what they're doing. So salute to those brothers and those sisters who are involved in that formation, because it's necessary to see us doing things at different areas, because that's how we attack our oppression. We attacked it by having formations, pockets of resistance in different locations throughout the city, and then now we get exchange. We get to exchange our errors. We get to exchange our gains, our rewards, our setbacks, and what are we doing to become better? And how do we continue to strengthen our bond? Because that is necessary to move us forward, to allow us to understand this situation that we're dealing with is not an isolated situation. You might be living in the Bronx, dealing with food, clothing, and shelter. I might be living in Manhattan, dealing with the struggle for food, clothing, and shelter. And somebody else is living in Queens, dealing with the struggle for food, clothing, and shelter. But what are we doing about it? What resources are we gaining? Black Veg Fest allows us to understand that we can change our situation. We can live amongst each other in a harmonious situation. Because I was very impressed by the fact I seen a brother with a motorcycle trying to go through the crowd, and security was dealing with him. It was a very calm situation. It was resolved. It didn't escalate. So I was very impressed by that. But as we continue to have our discussion on this particular topic, love is not passive, it is active, and focusing on Johnathan Jackson and his love for the brother George Jackson. I have to, as always, give you the definition of a political prisoner. For those of you who are first tuning in, please pay close attention and share this information with others so we can sharpen our understanding about a political prisoner, and we can make the distinction between a prisoner overall and a particular prisoner, a political prisoner. So a political prisoner, a person who is held in confinement because of their support for people struggling for freedom from an oppressive government or against its oppressive policies, or participating in an organization involved in such a freedom struggle. Then you have the prisoner of war. Prisoner of war, a national combatant of an oppressed nation held in confinement by the oppressor nation because of their participation in an organization fighting for self-determination, independence, or national liberation from the oppressor nation, or for support of or identity with that struggle. So these are the palm cards that we're currently giving out for the upcoming Curve Fest. It's very important that people get these palm cards and are able to understand what a political prisoner is and understand how that relates to them. And, you know, when I'm on the street doing that, it always makes me feel good about somebody knowing about a political prisoner. And whether they show up to Curve Fest, which is August 22nd, is going to be at Ujamaa. The address is 406 Utica. That's between Montgomery and Empire Boulevard. Time is going to be 1 to 5. If you have any concerns, questions, please contact me at 347-679-3936. This way, I could do what I can to get you the necessary answers that you might have. Let me provide my contact. If you didn't hear it, I have 2 different numbers. Either one can reach me. So this is on Johnathan Jackson. So the making of a revolutionary. Johnathan P. Jackson was just 17 years old when he walked into the Marion County Courthouse on August 7th, 1970, but his name would soon be written into the pages of American history. Born June 23rd, 1953 in California, Johnathan grew up watching his older brother, George Jackson, a prison activist and author of Soledad Brother, become a symbol of defiance inside America's racist penal system. To Johnathan, George wasn't just a political prisoner, he was family. The walls of San Quentin and Soledad were barriers that Johnathan refused to accept. The Marion County Courthouse Rebellion. That August morning, Johnathan entered the courthouse during the trial of inmate James McClain, hidden under his coat were firearms. Some later traced to activist Angela Davis. With the help of McClain and 2 other inmates, William Christmas and Rochelle McGee, Johnathan took the judge, a deputy district attorney, and several jurors hostage. His demand, the immediate release of the Soledad brothers, George Jackson, Fleeta Drumgo, and John Clutchett, who were facing murder charges after the death of a white prison guard. As they tried to flee in a van, police opened fire. When the smoke cleared, Johnathan Jackson, McClain, Christmas, and Judge Harold Halley were dead. McGee and Deputy D.A. Gary Thomas were seriously wounded. The nation was stunned, a symbol of resistance. To mainstream America, Johnathan was branded a radical or terrorist, but to the growing movement for Black liberation, he became a symbol of uncompromising courage. His act wasn't random. It was the direct response of a generation that saw no justice inside the system. Johnathan Jackson didn't go mad, one activist wrote later. He went revolutionary. The incident ignited further momentum for prison reform, racial justice, and solidarity movements across the country. It also led to the arrest of Angela Davis, accused of providing the weapons. Her 1972 acquittal became another victory in the ongoing struggle. The legacy of Black August. Jonathan's death followed a year later by George Jackson's own killing inside San Quentin in 1971, inspired the creation of Black August, a month of remembrance, resilience, and renewal within the Black community. Each August, freedom fighters, artists, and educators honor the Jackson brothers as martyrs who lay bare the brutal reality of racism in the American justice system. So that's just to give you an understanding of who Johnathan Jackson is. And, when I first heard the story, I was impressed. I was amazed. I was thinking to myself, wow, that is an extreme expression. That's a very strong expression of love. He was very passionate about his brother. I looked at a documentary on George Jackson, and Johnathan Jackson asked somebody, if that was your brother, what would you do? I can only imagine how many times he struggled with those ideas and uh, writing his brother writing him back, and they developing ideas, sharpening understanding about what was going on in the world and what is your relationship to your oppression. Do you sit around and constantly theorize about what's going on, or you are active participant in your struggle for liberation, your struggle for change, your struggle to secure your right to self-determination? These are some deep questions that people have, revolutionaries have, and I know for sure he struggled with that idea. And as he continued to talk to his brother, and his ideas became started to develop and grow, and he started to understand the importance of having political education. And in this book, Blood in My Eye, uh, George Jackson speaks about his brother. He says, Johnathan, my younger brother, understood this point perfectly. The purport of the raid on the Marion County Courthouse was more significant by far than its calculable effects. I knew him well since he was and still is my alter ego. He went to liberate and to educate with aggressive and free action. He knew that as he proceeded in liberating, there would be more action. He wasn't a speech maker, and neither am I. Escape from the myth, the hoax, by moving people into action against the terror of the state. Counterterrorism is the real significance of the August 7th affair. The Johnathan, the striking exposure was audacity, and more audacity. Theory and practice, strategy and tactics were based in his mind on actual confrontation within this particular historical development. He must have calculated that focal army activity that was hidden and nameless, operating where the objective conditions for revolution already existed and had existed for a dozen decades, would survive and grow if, at the same time, the Black Panther political apparatus continued to develop its autonomous infrastructure. Proof of his theory was built right into the action. 5 desperate men were offered arms as a means to freedom. They 3 took them. So he's giving you a scientific analysis of Johnathan and his approach to the situation at the courthouse. And I think that, listening to his analysis of his younger brother, it makes me think about the idea of love, right? We use this term freely. We tell people we love them all the time. Some of us, anyway, and some of us are very cautious about who we tell we love. But do we understand that love is not passive, it is active? And I learned that, and I have to credit that from doing research on liberation theology. And when it said that, I took that line and I ran with it. I was part of a formation that was dealing with senseless violence in Brooklyn. And when I would be on the bullhorn and I would say that line, it made me understand what love really meant. Love is action word. Love is something you do, not say. And as Matuda Shakur had said, and I appreciate him saying that because it makes you think about: do you love our captured freedom fighters? Do you love our political prisoners? And if so, what are you a part of? What formations are you a part of? Are you writing letters? Are you doing any type of action that expresses that love? Because people say that all the time. They talk about how they love this person or they love that, but their actions do not say that. And it's important that in Black August, as we deal with this 12th day of Black August, right? So we got 12 days in. There were a number of things happen. As I said, Curb Black Veg Fest, that was an expression of love. It allowed me to witness this is what love looks like. Love is not something that you just say and you don't have no action behind it, nothing material, something that people could see, something that people can feel, touch, hear, and smell, right? Interact with their 5 senses. Now we understand the power of it. And now we understand what we need to do to express that. We have to be ready for action. We have to be ready to do something. And that's the beauty and that's the importance and that's the power of Black August. It allows us to really get deeper into our understanding of love. our understanding of what a political prisoner is, and the fact that we need to take that seriously. We need to show them the respect. We need to show them love, and that love needs to be expressed in action. Right? We can wear a shirt that identifies our relationship to a political prisoner. We can wear a button that identifies our relationship to a political prisoner. And these are expressions of love, right? Love consists of multiple attributes. Love is being unselfish. Love is being grateful, being thankful. Love is caring, right? And when you're writing a letter to somebody, to a political prisoner, you're expressing that attitude. You're expressing that attribute. You're expressing deep concern. You're expressing the fact that you care, right? You spent the time to write to a political prisoner. Nothing else mattered in that moment but completing that letter. You have a theme, you have a focus, and you getting deep into the letter, letting the political prisoner know that they're not forgotten, that their deeds, their actions are respected. And our political prisoner writes back, and they're going through the same thing, and they're expressing how they feel about you and how they feel about the fact that you spent time writing to them. I know that Jalil Abdul-Mudakim, when he would write me, he would ask me about what I was doing and what led me to the course that my life is taking at this moment, right? That of political prisoners. And when he would get the letter and write me back, that built our relationship. And that was the same for other political prisoners, like Veronda Bowers. And I was able to take that a step further and invite a community, certain people in the community of Queensbridge, to write to Veronda Bowers and ask them questions about grieving, the appropriate way to grieve, or a positive way, a way that you're going to be able to process what issues that you're dealing with at that particular time. And that allowed him to have that relationship to the community. That allowed the community understand that there was somebody that was in prison because of their love, because of their concern. You think about the courage that it takes for somebody to actually say that they're going to be a part of a political organization, a formation, that they are going to put it all on the line because what they see, they're not happy with. They understand that they have to do something, that they have to take some serious action, because what's going on currently is not going to be resolved on its own. That there's going to take some soldiers, some people that are willing to lose everything because they are so dissatisfied with what's going on, what's happening. And that's why when I'm out in the street promoting Curve Fest, doing outreach, doing my part for the formation, for the coalition, for the coordination that's being conducted to get the idea out to our people about political prisoners and to get the idea about Curve Fest, I'm letting them know what it means. I'm letting them know that I am the representation or the expression of love for our political prisoners. This expression is serious. It's something that it has to be brought to you wherever you're at, right? Some people work in that area and at Utica and Eastern Parkway. Most of the people are traveling. They're going to the train station. They're going back and forth from different locations. And they're understanding that something is happening. And this person, that person being me, is putting out that idea. So everybody is aware of it. So that everybody understands that, we need to take this serious, right? We have a number of political prisoners that are in prison, and their fate is uncertain, right? But their fate is actually in our hands, right? The brother Lumumba told me about awareness campaigns or awareness strategies, plans, and then you have freedom strategy, freedom plans, right? Lawyers are responsible for those freedom plans, right? They understand the law. They want to see loopholes in the law, and they want to do what is necessary to get our political prisoners free. And us at Curve Fest, we're struggling to let the community know about our political prisoners and the fact that we need to do something to bring them home, right? We're asking for donations. We're asking for people to show up, right, to political prisoners. The awareness strategy helps the freedom strategy, because the awareness strategy is going to bring in the funds that the lawyers need, because these lawyers need to be paid for their research. They have to do documentation. It's an ongoing process, but it is our work. It is our duty, right? We have to be very serious and committed to this type of work, because this type of work is the work that is necessary to bring our freedom fighters home. Sundiata Acoli, he came home because people were organized, right? You had the awareness campaign, and then you had the freedom campaign. And those two campaigns worked together, so Sundiata Acoli came home. Before I was involved with political prisoner work, I heard that I was educated on Sekou Odinga having a defense committee, and that defense committee did what was necessary, had fundraisers, had awareness campaigns, and put enough together to increase his chances of coming home. And from my conversation with him, he did his own homework as well. He studied his case. He filed necessary paperwork, and he challenged the sentence that he had. But one of the things that always impressed me a lot was the fact that when he was given his sentence, he didn't accept that as it being final. He told me that he told the judge, "You're not God. What makes you think I'm gonna be in prison for the rest of my life?" And he was right. He wasn't in prison for the rest of his life. It was his courage, it was his endurance, his focus, his resilience to make sure that he was going to come home, and he did come home. And for over 9 years, he was with us. He was able to experience love from us. He was able to go to International African Arts Festival and have a table and advocate for the freedom of our political prisoners. He was able to put together an organization. He was able to do a number of things to us, put himself in the fight for our liberation, the fight to control our own destination. And that was a remarkable experience. And Black August allows us to look at these relationships. As I look at the relationship with Johnathan Jackson and George Jackson, I looked at my relationship with any political prisoner. I would tell you to do the same and look at all your relationship to a political prisoner. Are you writing them, right? I need to do more writing to our political prisoners. I'm waiting on a letter that I wrote to a political prisoner. I know I wrote to all 3 of the Virgin Island 3, and I'm waiting for a response. I'm looking forward to that so I can discuss that with you, because that's one of the things that I want to do. I want to talk about the letter that I received, and I want to make it real to you, because now you start to understand, wow, they wrote back, and he's sharing that, and then I want you to internalize the letter, because the letter is not just for me, it's for all of us, right? We have to look at that part of our people, right? Our history of oppression, our history of struggling to control our own destiny, to make sure that our right to self-determination is secure. And we have to do that by being consistent with our conversation, by making it our business to bring up the idea of political prison, regardless of who wants to hear it or not, right? Some people might say, wow, that's all he talks about, right? I was at a function and a brother said, you can't save everybody, or you need to stop trying to save everybody. And I said that somebody got to do it. And that my response was thinking ahead, right? You go to family functions, you see the next generation coming, you see a generation that's going to come after them in terms of making that decisions, bringing family together. What idea do you represent? Are all of us going to represent the same idea, which is don't worry about nobody but yourself, ignore what's going on in your community? And how long does those ideas go unchallenged? And those ideas that are going unchallenged, is that beneficial to us in terms of us moving forward as a collective? Because we look at ideas, and those ideas that are not being challenged is like a cancer in our community if it's not beneficial to us moving forward collectively. And now others start to accept that idea. And now the accountability or the responsibility that it takes for people to move forward is being ignored. So now that you see that things that might benefit a community, like a boys club, right, that might get turned into co-op, or community center that might get demolished and become a a skyscraper or something that has no direct benefit to the interests of the community. Like, we have to stop ignoring our responsibility, because then we start saying, wow, our community is getting bad. Well, the community, as you say, is getting bad because people who need to take on the responsibility to move the community forward is not accepting their role. They're not being responsible. They're not studying books like this, Blood in My Eye, right? They're not studying books like this, Marooned and Implacable. They're not studying books like this, Look for Me in the Whirlwind. See, all these books deal with the material reality, deal with our concrete conditions, and they deal with solutions. They deal with what needs to be done. They deal with mistakes. They deal with gains and losses. They deal with contradictions. They deal with antagonistic contradictions. They deal with everything that you can possibly imagine. And that's why I say it's always important to have your own library. And if you are not in a position to have your own library, have a library card. Because all these books that I showed you, you can go to the library and request them. The library has a lot of money. They have a lot of resources, and they're there to serve the community. And we have to hold them accountable. We have to hold them accountable for what we are curious about. If we're curious about a job, we should be able to go to the library and get resources. If we're curious about our health, we should be able to go to the library and get those resources. And if we're curious about our history of struggle and for liberation, we should go to the library and get those books that are necessary to develop our mind, to put us in a position that we're not going to accept this as an ongoing reality. We're going to put ourselves in a position that we're going to take a definitive position, right? Politically, and even in terms of our community, right? Not to say that those two ideas are different, right? Because when I talk about being political and I talk about political responsibility, I'm just talking about your relationship to power, right? You know, power is necessary for anything to happen in your community. The quality of of water, the time the bus is going to come, the time the garbage is going to come. Those are all access to power, right? And, you know, sometimes we thinking far ahead, but we need to think also immediately in our immediate surroundings. And we need to take a position and decide that we're going to be active. We're going to hold these elected officials accountable for what we want in our community. And that's why Charles Barron was so important and so inspirational when I look at him and how he doesn't ignore the fact that we have political prisoners. And he made it his duty to visit Jalil Abdul King. He had him on his show. So there's that strong relationship. There's that understanding that I am you and you are me, and we are in this together because we want the same results. We want to move our people forward. We don't want another generation inheriting this oppression, inheriting these problems, right? We could do something now about it. That's why every Wednesday from the hours of 1 to 1:30 on this platform, it's important that we have a discussion on our political prisoners, because it helps me and it helps you. It helps you to understand that you have a responsibility to how you relate to our political prisoners. Hold your teachers. If you're a teacher in school, right, this upcoming school, if you need somebody to come to your school and talk about political prisoners, contact me. I'm ready to do it. If you're a part of a church and you need somebody to come and talk about liberation theology, I'm available. Contact me and let's get that happening. You know, Black August, we still got some more time. You know, we have to put together some programs or participate in some programs if we're not in a position to do so. And please let me know about any programs. I could come with some information. And if you're in Brooklyn, please check out Curb Fest. It's going to be August 22nd, 1 to 5. The place to be is Ujama. That's 406 Utica. We have to come together and we have to do what is necessary to move our people forward, to raise awareness about our political prisoners so that they're not alone, so they don't feel neglected, so they understand that we have their back, we have their interests, and we're out here to do what is necessary to move them forward. in terms of being closer to being free. What we realize it's work to be done, but we're here to do the work. So as I sound off, 406 Utica, that's the place to be. Time is 1 to 5. And that's Ujamaa. Please share with as many people as possible. I also have some palm cards available. I can meet you where you would like to meet, and I could give you some palm cards. Also have some flyers available. If you know about any places that you think can help spread the word, you're a part of a church, I have some palm cards for you. If you're a part of a masjid, I have some palm cards for you. If you're a part of a community center, I have some palm cards for you. That being said, I just want to say thank you again for tuning in. Peace and love. I see you out in the street. Be safe, stay hydrated, and y'all know the call. Free them all.